different receivers touched the football in a positive way on Saturday in Hard Rock Stadium. That doesn't happen.
And I'm going to say Detroit might be bad.
Oh.
Fool's gold.
So I think Minnesota might be good.
Real deal.
Mayo fragrance. You make that purchase, you're going to change the course of history.
It really feels like it. I'm like, I'm just going to wait and see if they're actually in the game before I buy the tickets for too much money.
Recording from New York and Los Angeles, your hosts, Nicole Katz and Briana Klein, are emerging from the tunnel for this week's show. Another sports show is ready to broadcast to you on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make us one of your stars of the game by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on auto downloads. Before we kick off, please leave us a podcast review and YouTube comment. Attend the postgame on social media for exclusive daily content. Today on Another Sports Show.
We give you hard-hitting analysis of the biggest, most important news of Week 2 in the NFL. Nicole got the Will Levis Mayo fragrance, so we have to break it down. But in all seriousness, we bring back the game of, is this team good or is the other team this just bad? Because the Saints dominated the Cowboys, Minnesota beat San Francisco, Tampa Bay beat Detroit, and Las Vegas beat Baltimore. So we break down all of those upsets to figure out if is it really an upset or is that team actually really good? We check in on Nicole Katz's Jets fandom to figure out just how much she's worried, passionate, feeling, just how's our general emotional state around the New York Jets right now. And of course, the game of the week really was the Chiefs-Bengals. So we talk about whether or not we're feeling better about the Bengals' prospects for the year, and can anyone contend with the Chiefs for the Super Bowl? It's easy to forget about college football, but we're not going to here. We give you our hot takes in a week of almost upsets, with Georgia having a disappointing performance but squeaking out a win, and you could probably say the same about LSU. We talk about what this means for the bigger picture of college football and the upcoming new playoff format. Then, of course, we have to take a moment to laugh at FSU and check in on Nicole Katz's University is Back meter. Just how cocky crazy is she feeling about UM after they dominated Ball State this week? And then last but not least, we switch from football to look at everything going on in the run-up to October baseball. There's a big Broad Street versus Broadway where we break down everything that happened in the Mets Phillies series this week. We give you a quick edition of Superstition or Super Stupid as it relates to our baseball playoff hopes. And then, of course, we give you this week's MLB Series of the Week, which, by the way, features another head-to-head of our favorite teams. And, of course, we end the show with Final Buzzer. Take it away, voiceover man.
It's another sports show, but it's not Monday morning, Tuesday, NFL Overreaction.
Week 2 of NFL football happened, and everything we knew feels like it got turned on its head. So, we're going to play the game again. Is this team good, or is the other team actually just bad? Because guess what? The teams we're going to talk about, San Francisco was upset, the Cowboys were upset, and yes, if you're not watching the YouTube video, I am smiling very wide about those. Detroit was upset, and Baltimore was upset. So we're going to run through all 4 of those games, because what in the world is happening in the NFL?
It's it feels like everything that we were like speculating that could go either way, we're starting to get answers on, and it's like really throwing a wrench in kind of not stereotypes, but kind of what was anticipated or what was from like previous years of some teams.
So it is the perfect time for, is this team good or is that other team just bad? And Nicole, we're going to start with Minnesota beating San Francisco. So the question is, are the Minnesota Vikings, led by Sam Darnold, actually good? Or is San Francisco worse than we expected?
So I think Minnesota might be good.
Real deal.
Yeah, I'm getting that feeling and inkling too.
Yeah, it was, I mean, we know there's plenty of confirmed things that we know about the 49ers, whether it's like strength of their defense and just like overall that they are a very good team compared to like a Sam Darnold led Minnesota Vikings. And there was a lot of questions about what he was going to be able to do with this offense, but they just seem to be meshing incredibly well together. And Sam Darnold is kind of like that guy right now. Like, He's had like incredible incredible 2 touchdown passes, particularly the 97-yard pass to Jefferson, which not only I was freaking out because of my fantasy points, but I was freaking out because of my fantasy points. And it was also beautiful that you're just like, it feels like a soulmate finding each other type thing to be watching. And they're also, Minnesota's defense really showed up. Like, Purdy got sacked like 5 times. Like, it just didn't necessarily, it felt more like you'd be expecting this game on paper prior to the season starting, that 49ers just be able to like kind of walk in and like kind of run the place. And it totally was not what came in. Their O-line, the Vikings O-line like really held up.
I completely agree with everything you just said. I think Justin Jefferson had one of those games, which was very impressive. But if you look at all the stats, it doesn't scream that Minnesota dominated this game.
Mm-mm.
You know, the time of possession was about 35 minutes to 25 minutes in favor of the 49ers. They both had 2 turnovers, so it wasn't like the Vikings dominated some turnover battle here. I think Purdy had a bad game. Like,
Yeah.
eye test wise, I mean, like, yeah, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 300 plus yards. I get that statistically he was fine, but like visually, that man did not run an efficient offense today. I think that everyone got a little like, oh, they don't need Christian McCaffrey.
They're like, oh
And
wait, we might need Christian McCaffrey.
I think that in the NFL, the ability to game plan is really important. And the fact that the 49ers conveniently didn't tell anyone that McCaffrey wasn't playing until an hour before the game kind of put the Jets at a disadvantage. Shocker. And I think Minnesota being able to come into this game and game plan for not Christian McCaffrey meant that you saw what San Francisco normally looks like when McCaffrey's out hurt. Like, there's I should have pulled it before we recorded today, but there are very clear differences in wins, losses, and stats and results of games when McCaffrey plays and when McCaffrey doesn't play for San Francisco. That being said, if Minnesota wasn't at least good, they wouldn't. I think San Francisco should have still won this game. You saw it at the end of the game. They just went marching down the field, and you were like, oh, it still feels like it was 20-7, and I at no point felt comfortable that Minnesota was going to win this game. I was like, oh, no, San Francisco is driving on them. But I think, yeah, to your point, Minnesota's defense made just enough plays. Purdy did not play well. And I am convinced that with as good as Justin Jefferson and the skill players on this Minnesota team are, that if that offensive line that has those 2 incredible tackles that I was talking a lot in our Friday football forecast, if they can keep Darnold upright, I think he can play well enough that this Minnesota team will be good.
And that's what happened. That's like literally what happened.
All of that being said, I still would be shocked if Minnesota is competing for this division.
Oh, yeah. Like, as of right now, it was a great game to watch. It was super exciting and definitely great to see. And it was great to see what Sam Darnold can do when he can stay upright and, like, can be a quarterback, maybe.
Right now, I would say Minnesota is good.
Real deal.
Is actually good. I'm intrigued to see what this looks like week 5, week 6, week 7, when teams start getting tape on this version of Sam Darnold, and if they can keep that up.
Yeah.
But if they can, this could be our 7th wildcard team. I get to talk about my favorite thing in the world, the Cowboys losing. And not only did they lose, they lost in dominating, embarrassing fashion. Yeah, I'll probably take out all this gloating if the Eagles lose tomorrow. So the Saints pummeled the Cowboys at home, which rarely ever happens. So, question. We all were skeptical about the Saints after they beat up on the probably worst team in the league, Carolina Panthers, last week. Oh boy. But, Nicole, after they beat the Cowboys, are the Saints actually good? Or are the Cowboys bad?
I'm going with potentially the Saints are good. But it could also be that the Cowboys are bad. It could be both. Can we say both?
I'm going to push you. I'm going to say no, you can't say both. You have to pick a side.
Okay. I'm going with the Saints are good. just because of like Kamara's unbelievable touchdown runs were just out of this world, like couldn't be stopped. So I'm siding because of Alvin this week with the Saints being good.
Real deal.
I concur. I would say that I think the Saints are good.
Real deal.
Because I think this is the worst possible version of the Cowboys that we could see. I think if someone could play bad, they play bad. And I think we're seeing the very, very floor of the Cowboys. And they beat a decently good Cleveland Browns team pretty handily last week.
Like
So I think this set,
smacked.
yeah, like I don't, and maybe this is the Eagles fan in me, but there's no part of me that's watching this game and thinking, great, the division's going to be a cakewalk. Like, no, that's the team that's going to be completely fine next week and still be the team in the running for the, like they are that tier below the Super Bowl contenders. Like, I think they had a bad week.
They
So
can
I'm
just
more
be like
inclined to,
annoyingly good on a good week.
right. Yeah. I think I am more inclined to believe that the Saints are good than the Cowboys are bad. All of that being said, if the Saints team is actually good, I'm confused because there is zero indicator for me that they should be this good. I think that we had that Derek Carr performance where, yeah, if you don't get any sacks or any QB pressures, I think, I didn't, again, I should have looked up the stat at the end of the game, but it was like almost at the end of the game and there were 0 sacks and 3 QB pressures in like the beginning of the fourth quarter or something like that. So Carr, I put him in the Goff category that we'll talk about in a minute, where if he has a clean pocket, he's still good.
Making
He has an
magic.
arm. Yeah. Darnold's the same. Like it seems like you keep him upright, you keep him in a clean pocket, you give him enough time, he's gonna be a good quarterback. He's not in that tier where he can make it happen or get it out of his hand quick enough, but yeah, like Derek Carr, serviceable quarterback when you don't hit him.
It was definitely very interesting seeing this from the Saints. I mean, they were dominating such a way, got leading at the half, like 35-16, and then also just their amount of time in possession, like in the fourth, like they just like held on to that ball, like they had like that like last like crazy long drive of like it was like 8 minutes, and then getting a touchdown. It's just like when you can just really keep it and run the clock that much, like you're just like really kind of like owning the game and just be like, no, we run this. We'll continue to do this, and we'll just like keep you here and keep doing this until we just get to go home.
But let's talk about another NFC South team that managed to pull out a win this week. Nicole, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually good? Or is Detroit bad?
I think the Bucks are good.
Real deal.
You're 3 for 3.
I know. I'm really as I'm thinking that as you're going through, but they just had like Baker Mayfield. I have really kind of been like an anti Baker Mayfield person, but I really think he has found his stride in Tampa and like the place where he could be and like meshing very well with the team.
When Baker is good, he is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Is the best way I would describe it. Like he's just like watching him scramble around in the pocket and then something good come of it is unbelievably enjoyable. I know that we have two polar extremes here. So I'm going to go the opposite of you, though. And I'm going to say Detroit might be bad.
Oh.
Fool's gold.
Okay, now bad is extreme.
Yeah.
I just think that Detroit right now doesn't look like it is operating at the level they would need to be to make it to the Super Bowl and beat the Niners. I mean, that being said, the Niners didn't look great, but again, I can like be like, yeah, that's the McCaffrey-less version of the Niners looks like that. I can't really say, oh, this is the blankless Detroit, and that is why Goff just had such an awful game today. I think the whole thing about Goff is that he isn't an elite quarterback, but he's not a bad quarterback. And if you put too much on him, this is what Detroit looks like. And I think that it was more, in my opinion, this was more about Detroit not playing up to their possible potential. That I think they have to play a perfect game to be at, more than Tampa Bay being some like world-beating team, no matter how fun Tampa Bay is. And depending on how we feel about the Saints, like the Tampa Bay could still be a playoff team because who knows what's going on in the NFC South. Like that's
I
a
know that's like
weird
where they
Wild
can just
West.
kind of come in if they're just finding like the right magic, then come in the playoffs.
9 and
Just be
8.
like, we're here too.
That 9-8 team winning that division. If the Saints, I mean, I think we both believe that it looks like the Saints might actually be good. So I'm leaning a little more towards Detroit maybe not being in that Super Bowl or bust tier. They might actually
Detroit
just
had
be
an
the tier
off
below
week
it.
this week, or just could not be in that tier right now.
Yeah, and yeah. I think with Goff at quarterback, they're always going to have to prove to me that they are actually in that tier versus me just being like, "Yep, you're there." Like,
Yep, you're there. Yeah, but both teams, yeah, they both struggled to like, create opportunities with interceptions and like, just weren't able to kind of convert when they regained possession in that way. But it was definitely a good game to watch.
final one. I can't believe we have 4 of these this week. Week 2 was craziness. Nicole, are the Las Vegas Raiders actually good? Or is Baltimore bad?
I think Baltimore might be bad.
Fool's gold.
I'm worried about this too because Baltimore is a fun team and I root for Lamar so heavily. So
but in previewing, we discussed kind of like the question on the Baltimore offense, and that it was kind of going to be, a younger group, a little bit more like on the mediocre side, and Lamar was going to be probably doing more Lamaring as he tends to do when he's like not receiving the help or doesn't have the help that he needs. And it definitely watching him, you see him, I feel like scrambling a lot more. But yeah, it got that second half was definitely, or fourth quarter, like the Raiders kind of came in and were like, no, thank you. We're gonna end this and take it home.
yeah, I saw absolutely nothing that told me that this win was about Vegas being actually
No.
good. I think if anything, I'm with you. Baltimore might be bad.
Fool's gold.
But again, I think I'd put them in the same category as Detroit, where it's really hard because Baltimore looked very good against, despite losing. Baltimore might be the best 0-2 team of the year. Like they,
It's
with
the
a close
first time
second
they're
with
0-2
Cincinnati,
since 2015.
which is not surprising to me because John Harbaugh is just that kind of coach. Like
Yeah.
put him in the same category as Mike Tomlin, where it's just like, yeah, you're just annoyingly good at what you do. I think Cincinnati being 0-2, Baltimore being 0-2 are things I'm trying very hard not to overreact to right now because I think we're going to hit the playoffs and those are the teams that are going to be competing in the AFC, like possibly likely for like with the Chiefs. So does it look, I think it's not great that
Someone
Baltimore
has
lost
to
to
stop
Vegas.
them.
It's the crazy thing about the NFL, and this is too rational for this segment that's just supposed to be fun, is that even the worst teams in the league normally win 6 or 7 games. So it is definitely not good that Baltimore lost this game. I think Baltimore is going to be fine, but I think it is worth watching and questioning whether they are able to contend with the Chiefs because everything in the AFC is, can you beat the Chiefs? And it's weird watching week 1 where I was like, you didn't beat the Chiefs, but I felt like you could, and then watching them lose to
And then yeah, like them.
the
just
NFL is weird.
It's very weird. At home too. They were like
Yeah, it's
in their
bad.
own space and then completely just that fourth quarter. That Raiders just Devontae Adams was like, "Hi, this is my home now. Thank you. Everyone can leave. I live here." Like
Something about watching the Raiders win, and I felt this all last season once they went to this their new head coach who was the interim coach last year. They just seem like such a joyful team when they win. Like it seems like they have a sense of camaraderie as a team that I don't understand because they're not good, but like they just seem to make it their mission to do a couple of these games a year and have a good time doing it. And I find that enjoyable to watch.
it's fun to watch. It's great to watch.
They also don't have to play the Eagles, so.
The perfect vibes for Vegas. We're here to talk about Mayo fragrance.
Okay, have you opened it yet?
Or I have opened it, and I have opened it. Did I put it back in the box for dramatic effect of this? 100%. Okay. I was so excited. I forgot to record my initial reaction. It was after the fact because my mom was like, "You should have recorded this," and I said, "Oh my god, I like ran to my mailbox to open this."
All right. If you are need to get caught up, Will Levis, quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, released a fragrance with Hellman's Mayo. He went viral last year because he said he puts mayo in his coffee instead of creamer sometimes. Hellman's Mayo for this year signed him to like a big sponsorship deal. There's ads and this fragrance. And Nicole, for science, bought the fragrance. And it shockingly was only $8. So fun. Right.
So there's like a lot of interesting things about this. So do I want, first off, biggest disclaimer of this, I hate mayonnaise. Like I really don't like mayonnaise.
I forgot that about you.
Yeah, I like really mayonnaise. Don't like mayonnaise. Second biggest disclaimer, I work in fragrance, specifically marketing in fragrance. It's more important for me to say that I don't like mayonnaise.
This is perfectly up your alley of something you need to review and tell us about.
Like behind the scenes context, I tried to buy this fragrance and also the Annie Ann's pretzel fragrance on the same day, and I was only 50% successful. But what a time!
I'm glad you were successful with this one.
Right. Okay. So I needed this for all of the reasons that it is sports marketing related. The ads for it, I needed to receive this in my hands, see what it smelled like. It was only $8. It was free shipping, and it kind of smells amazing.
I knew that was gonna happen.
Wait, okay,
hold on. For the YouTube audience, please open up the box.
Okay.
Because the box is shockingly nice.
Oh my god, $8. And my box arrived ripped. I did tape it, but it does say Will Levis number 8 because it's like Chanel number 5. And so the other thing that I was really curious about with this was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like the crappiest of crappy material. This is like a really nice soft matte box, like a nice box. You touch the paper and it's like, it's nice. Ooh, like it's so ASMR, you can't even hear it. The bottle's plastic, but that's totally fine.
Right. This is a marketing gimmick.
Right.
And it's
one time and done.
Which is why I'm so excited that it wasn't expensive, right? Like they're getting all the publicity for it, but it's cute. I mean, of course, like plastic, but like it's still like a cute bottle that could sit on a shelf.
ASMR. It's the bottle. It's a blue bottle.
Like it's like a
navy blue gradient. It says Will Levis number 8 Perfume de mayonnaise, and it has the Hellman's Mayo logo at the top. I am, like I said, let's not throw it. I did bring a professional blotter with me for a live smell. So, can we get a spray noise?
Nice.
Oh my god, it is so crazy how good this smells. So it also came with this cute little card that has a message from Will Levis. And it describes the fragrance notes of what this smells like. I just need to...
read it, and then I want to know if you think it's an accurate assessment of what.
It's so crazy. It smells so good. I can't wait for you to smell this next month because, like...
I'm so excited.
The card says, my message from Will Levis, his personal letter to me. It isn't every day you get to share your signature scent with the world, but today is that day for me. As a Mayo lover, I've been given the unique opportunity to work with Hellman's to craft the distinct scent of greatness. Introducing Will Levis number 8 Perfume de mayonnaise. The fragrance opens with a bright burst of tart lemon that provides a refreshing and clean introduction. At the heart of the fragrance lies a creamy, daring mayonnaise accord offering smoothness and complexity. Next, a whisper of parsley adds a fresh herbal element. Reminisce a scent of a well-prepared dish. And of course, the fragrance would not be complete without subtle coffee undertones evocative of my signature mayonnaise infused brew. A sensual musk base weaves through the composition, concluding, this is really how all these notes are written. This is so crazy. Concluding with a comforting creamy vanilla finish that is equal parts inviting and intriguing. Like me, I hope you savor every last drop. And it's so spot on. Lee like describes that. Like it goes from super citrus at the top, and then you get to the end, and it's kind of like this, like coffee vanilla, but there's like this warm, like fresh sheets. This is crazy that this is mayonnaise.
So if I said, like, if I asked the question, yes or no, does it, like, not does it smell good, but does it smell like mayonnaise? Do you think it smells like mayonnaise?
But here's the thing is I don't think I know fully what mayonnaise smells like. Does mayonnaise have a smell? Like, I don't think it smells like mayonnaise. You're going to go smell a jar of mayonnaise. Now, this is a great, this is great audio content, having two people smell things and subtly describe them to each other to see if they line up and smell that way. I'm honestly shocked at how cologne-y this smells, which is, I think, I don't know why I was really just expecting it not to smell like cologne, even though it is a cologne.
Okay, I'm not going to do the thing where I explain what mayo smells like to you. I needed to confirm that mayo, in fact, did have a smell. And it does, because mayo is eggs. And so essentially, like, have you ever smelled an egg salad sandwich?
Yeah, I wouldn't say this smells like egg salad.
Okay. I'm excited. Next month I'll be
update on the mayo fragrance coming to you next month. But basically, this totally, like, yes, it is like, oh, they just did it to make money, but cost of goods on this wasn't crazy high, but like covered it was free shipping. It was $8. What an unbelievable thing. As someone that does not, and I will not buy mayo, I bought the fragrance, which is an anomaly of marketing, but if you got your hands on this, congratulations, because I think this is a delicious find.
This whole campaign just makes me want Will Levis to be a good quarterback, because I think this is so funny, and I like that he's leaning into being like this like weird thing he did, and like I like this partnership so much, and I think it's unfortunate that he seems to be bad at the quarterbacking.
Right. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. My mom was saying, she's like, I haven't seen any of this. What do you mean there's all these commercials? And I was like, well, Mom, guess what? You don't watch football. So then I proceeded to sit and show her.
Not the target audience.
100%. But then I showed her all of the Hellman Mayo commercials and the drop of this. And then it was like her favorite thing to talk about for the last 24 hours was she's like saying to my dad, did you see this? Did you see he has commercials? They're all over the place. I'm like, okay. Bengals went to Arrowhead. They went to Burrowhead. Oh, but they lost against the Chiefs. But it wasn't like an unbelievably embarrassing showing. So, do we think there's potential for the Bengals? Bengals may not be bad?
Are the Bengals bad?
Are the Bengals bad?
Yeah, I think that this Bengals defense is what was the most encouraging thing to me. They made a couple of key stops. They had an impressive pick against Mahomes, who's someone who's very hard to pick off, just because he annoyingly always makes the right decision. Despite thinking that Patriots game was going to be a trap game for the Bengals, I was not in full-on panic mode for the Bengals. I'm still not in full-on panic mode. They are in the same category as Baltimore for me. They're both haven't won the game, and I think they're both going to be fine at the end of the season. I think the overreaction has been both entertaining but also inaccurate about Burrow not being able to leave a Gatorade bottle or something like that this week.
Yeah. His water bottle holding is, going to tell us about his actual injury status. Right.
That being said, he does still look kind of hurt. So, here's a couple things that I don't believe in. I don't believe in the folklore of Burrowhead. I think more often than not, the Chiefs have actually beaten the Bengals. Number two thing that I don't believe in, I don't believe in this whole, like, it's fine. The Bengals always start slow and always figure it out. That being said, I think the Bengals have started slow and they are going to figure it out. If this defense can continue to repeat a performance of the floor they showed today. Like, I don't think the defense was dominant in any fashion against the Chiefs. The Chiefs ended up winning and seemed like they could drive most of the time, but they made enough plays to keep their offense in the game. So if they can keep doing that, it will be okay. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they can keep doing that.
Yeah, that's going to be quite tiring and exhausting and potentially injury-wise, and then eventually they'll need to kind of figure out what's happening with offense and what's happening with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, whatever his future is there. And once eventually, like, Higgins coming back, I think will then make that big difference there too, because everyone's like really like harping on that, but like.
So the Chiefs are 2-0. Somehow. Lock for the Super Bowl?
Sure. Yeah. I have not been given any evidence to the contrary. So sorry, but like as of right now, if you had to ask me, that's what it looks like. Like
Chiefs or the whole AFC? If you had to put money down, let's say 100 of your own dollars right now, Chiefs or the AFC field to make it to the Super Bowl?
oh God, I would put it on the Chiefs.
I think I would still take the field just because the NFL is random.
Right.
But no good team in the AFC has given me an indication yet that they can beat the Chiefs. And annoyingly, I would say that Baltimore and the Bengals both played them close. So it wasn't like
close.
the Chiefs
They just need to figure it out. But there's that wild, weird, like, it's the same way that like Taylor Swift has like Tay Voodoo, like Patrick Mahomes has some kind of like Mahoodoo, I don't know what, but like it's something in the last 2 minutes of games that he just like things happen.
Well, he's just good at football. I wouldn't call it voodoo. I think he's just maybe the best quarterback we've ever seen. But yeah, it's because both of the games were so close, and football is a game of such small margins. If like I could name like 16 things in both of these first two games that if they just went slightly unlucky in the other way, that the Chiefs are 1-1 or 0-2 right now. So I still feel like I'm gonna take the field. But if anyone was out there rooting that maybe right, but like if anyone was feeling like maybe the Chiefs will stumble out the gates or maybe the Chiefs won't look great, yeah, no, they look fine, and they annoyingly are also catching every single break in these two hard games they played. Well, if you tuned into this week's Friday Football Forecast episode, you got a little preview. But I think it's important that now that there's been two Jets games, a win and a loss, to check in with our resident Jets fan here. I would describe Nicole's Jets fandom as reluctant and grumpy at this stage in her life. So, Nicole, your team's 1-1, totally fine record. How you feeling?
The Jets, like, there's like no defense, and it's like just watching it dwindle and dwindle, and it started dwindling before the season started with Hassan Reddick, and then like today, like Mosley with a foot injury, and like Johnson with the now like a season-ending injury, which is probably an Achilles, and like you need a defense, and when the Jets defense is supposed to be like the thing and supposed to be great, and it's slowly like one by one, it's just like collapsing. That's it's not great in week 2.
Yeah, I concur with that assessment. That is an incredibly rational assessment. Not what I asked though. How are you doing? What is it like as a fan right now? Like this is a season with Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah, I was like, this is a season that everyone sold us the dream. Again, for like the second year in a row. It was just like, this is the year you have Aaron Rodgers. And now it's like, this is the year you have Aaron Rodgers and a great offense and a great defense. And these both games have been really painful and not necessarily the most enjoyable to watch. And like last week, it felt like a little bit easier to think that because it was like the 49ers. And it was away, and you're going in as the first game of the season. It was kind of like all lots of big hype. and it's just no, Jets still kind of being the Jets, and I don't feel necessarily thrivingly optimistic even though they won today, because honestly throughout that whole game I kind of didn't feel like the Jets were going to win. I called it in last week's episode that it was going to be the quote unquote upset, so I'm not the most optimistic Jets fan currently.
Yeah. I will say, imagine how less optimistic you would be if they did end up losing to Tennessee, though. Like, I think
But then I
1-1.
would have won my underdog call and would have felt happy about that. Instead,
You
now I'm
definitely
like, wow,
hedged
we
that.
almost lost to Will Levis. And what's the big takeaway of that game? A new Will Levis meme of him like jumping and flying, and not that the Jets won. Like, that is the takeaway of the game.
Yeah, circling back to your really smart and well said analysis, I am shocked at how bad this defense has looked for 2 weeks. And it's not I think to your previous point, like, yeah, looking bad against the 49ers, like, understanding you're in a different tier, like, that's one thing. But I was shocked that they repeated that bad defensive performance this week. They're getting very little pressure on the quarterback. It's just
And Will Levis is a great quarterback to put pressure on because he's already looked scared.
Yeah, Will Levis not very good at playing quarterback. It makes a great fragrance. But
He puts mayo in his coffee. You could just like
Yeah.
look at him weird and he would probably fumble. Like, I just
that is the vibe he has given off for the last year plus 2 games. So I'm gonna give you a note to end on this positively. Defense is something that can be figured out and can improve throughout the year. So I would say that if this defense doesn't look a little better after week 4 or 5, panic. But yeah, it doesn't look great right now. So
You know what? At least this upcoming week, I can just get it over with on Thursday and then enjoy the rest of my weekend. But
who are they playing again?
the Patriots.
Oh. I'm actually, you know what? For the second week in a row, I'm excited to watch Thursday Night Football. That's a shocker.
Still don't like Aaron Rodgers. I just do feel like that's important for me to say continuously, so I will continue to say that.
Yeah. I'm shocked how much of a quarterback he still looks like, considering he's 40 and coming off an Achilles.
Yeah, that's really crazy. But I do watching Aaron Rodgers reinforces in my brain, not that I needed it to be reinforced, how important it is to have a quarterback that can also move. And
Nope, that's it. There you go. There's nothing else that needs to be said.
Hot take.
Yeah, if last week was the week of college football upsets, this was the week of ow, so close. Do you want to talk about LSU or Georgia first?
Let's start with Georgia. So Georgia, that was 13-12 against Kentucky. And, their coach likes to play the card of like, well, anything that's, SEC is still a rivalry. And I'm like, well, like.
They did not look like the best team in college football this week. After 2 weeks of clearly looking like the best team in college football, they definitely, what is a good phrase? Laid an egg?
Laid an egg, they laid down.
Laying an egg is when you don't score any points. I'm realizing that was whatever. They did
kind of for Georgia. That's kind of what happened. Like,
I mean, they escaped the loss, and I guess in the new college football playoff scenario, it
that
matters.
It's fine, I guess.
If they win the SEC and they get the bye anyway, then it doesn't matter in the end, but
that's what I think is very interesting now of looking rankings can only tell us so much when considering things, especially but now we're in the place of what are they determining of strength of team? And I guess they can really Texas has moved up from 2 to 1, and Georgia has moved down from 1 to 2. And I think after just the demonstration that Georgia had put on and being so close to an unranked team like Kentucky, which is a basketball school, compared to now Texas demonstrating the depth that they have. I mean, not that anyone thought that like Arch Manning could have choked, but like just demonstrating that like,
Could
you
have.
know,
He's 18?
right, but like with Quinn Ewers like getting hurt and being injured, and yeah, they're playing like an absolutely nowhere nothing school, but like Arch Manning demonstrated he could move, can make touchdown passes. Like it was like enough to demonstrate that even though both teams won, Texas is still such obviously stronger team right now compared to Georgia. That was enough to like swap the two in the rankings.
It was a really bad game. They did not look good. I think what's fascinating now is to me, it's all going to be about that bye for the playoffs. And you have to win the conference to get a bye. And in case anyone listening forgot, Texas is now in the SEC. So it doesn't actually matter what they end up on some AP ranking. It matters which one of them wins. So that's why I'm like, okay, we are moving a little more towards an NFL model where it's congratulations, Georgia, you got the win. This isn't going to hurt you for getting that bye.
Right.
Like, it's going to come down to which one of these teams loses first
In that
and
game,
therefore
right.
doesn't get the bye. Because I think in football, having a bye in a playoffs is so crucial. So as much as I would personally love to be all doom and gloom about Georgia, I need to wait till next week and see whether this was a 1 week performance. And if it wasn't an almost upset and was a true upset, I think we both would be on this podcast like, oh my gosh, they just lost their bye. Their championship hopes are dashed versus,
Yes.
okay, you still haven't lost a game. We'll see what happens.
Your record still looks pretty. So for the college football playoff conversation and things, it's still like, but Texas now being in the SEC makes it very interesting.
The other almost upset of the week, I was about to come on this podcast and be real annoying because it was almost the second week in a row where I got to say that I picked my top 25 upset correctly. But unfortunately, LSU did come back and beat South Carolina. So they weren't upset. But this is the third week of college football and the third week of LSU not looking very good. So despite it being an almost upset and not getting upset, are you feeling better about LSU's prospects or worse?
No, I want to give you this upset. South Carolina deserved to win this game. It was just like the energy they really dominated so much. I kind of just feel like Brian Kelly went into the locker room and scared LSU into like waking up and winning because it just was so unbelievably messy. And for who LSU was supposed to be in that program, like the Gamecocks should not have scared them into that fashion. But South Carolina, I think, should have won, but that just came down to the clock and a field goal, and could have had the opportunity to tie it up, and that would have been, I would have loved to see that overtime. But I don't. I feel like it's kind of just the inevitable. I don't feel like LSU has necessarily demonstrated that they have like this dominance of skill to keep going. I still also feel like the vibe in the locker room is probably not as positive as Brian Kelly is still who he is, and like having a close game like that, he probably still came off of it as like negative and not necessarily like positive because he's in the mindset of we should just be winning out.
Hey Nicole, FSU lost again.
Oh my god, it was so beautiful. They're so bad. They're so when bad. Fans start making fun of themselves is just like, oh wow. Wow. I love when a top 10 ranked team that I despise unbelievably just goes into just it was disgusting. It was just, I would be embarrassed if I was an FSU fan. Thank God I'm not. I don't know what I would be worried for Mike Norvell's job. I feel bad for like there's going to be so many kids jumping into the transfer portal. There's so many people that are like going to be that they were recruiting that are already like decommitting. Woo! Oof! Big oof!
Look, as University of Miami fans, I can relate. Sometimes seasons are just awful. It's been a long time since we've gotten to see an FSU team this awful. And they're not just like, oh, you're not going to be competitive in the playoff awful. Like, you're 0-3 awful, losing to Memphis this week.
At home. They lost to Memphis at
At
home.
home. I love all the graphics that come out after a big team loses. That's like, big team pay smaller team millions of dollars to beat them up at home. It's like, it's so, gosh, I have to bucket that because I would tangent too much about the business of college football because it's wild to my brain. But yeah, it's just fun. Like,
yeah,
every
FSU's
week that
not
FSU
good.
loses.
It also just seems like, the Gators aren't good. So that's always a good time to be a Canes fan when like that's all happening and going down. I can't wait to watch this year's toilet bowl that is the Florida Gators versus the Florida State Seminoles, and just like wow. And it's really just how bad can the Seminoles get? Because every week it feels like it's gonna be, well, look, this should go, and then it's just so bad.
It keeps feeling every week where I'm like, well, they should beat Memphis. Like, I know
Right.
they've looked awful, but they're
Like
so
Boston
much more
College is
talented
bad, but
team.
Memphis.
Yeah, it's so fun. And yes, you can expect on another sports show every week that FSU loses, we will talk about it, even when it becomes boring and repetitive.
Never boring, never repetitive.
The U is back, baby!
Last week on the Friday Football Forecast, I asked Nicole if anything could happen in this Ball State University of Miami game that would cause her to change her recording on the Is the University of Miami back meter. And she said that it could only go down. That being said, I don't think, even in Nicole's most optimistic brain, did she think the University of Miami would win the game 62-0 and now be ranked 8th inside the top 10 in the AP poll. So, for the third week in a row, I asked you, Nicole, is the U back? And if so, how much?
We may be approaching the stage where I get nervous because I'm still at a 7. I am true to my word that although a shutout of 62-0 is an incredible showing, I also learned where Ball State is this weekend. So like I can't be too happy about beating a school that I didn't know where it was 3 days before right now. So I am trying to be slightly humble with that, although I did come out blazing with the 7 because that was against Florida. But wow, it's so great to have an offense. Like a total of like 750 yards, 507 passing yards. It's like it's second most in UM history. This was like the most yards that UM has ever had in history of football. How can I figure out how to get Cam Ward to never leave? Because I'm not ready in the middle of the season and I'm already
We're not even
prepared.
in the middle of the season.
I'm
we
not,
haven't even started conference play yet.
You're right. And I'm already,
and
I
I'm
cannot
also
think.
We alert.
hitting that on
I'm
myself.
not thinking of a time without Cam Ward. Watching Cam Ward play football is like a work of art. He completed 19 for 28 passes, 346 yards to 8 different receivers. 8 different receivers touched the football in a positive way on Saturday in Hard Rock Stadium. That doesn't happen. 5 beautiful touchdowns, and he was only in for 3 quarters. 3 quarters because guess what? We got to play other quarterbacks who also then proceeded to do very, very well.
We alert.
Cam Ward is the first quarterback with 3 consecutive performances of over 300 yards for UM. And I don't understand. I feel like that stat should have happened in like the 80s. Wow.
Remember, there was no passing in the 80s, and the University of Miami hasn't had a quarterback since the early 2000s. So nothing about that happening for the first time is shocking to me.
Well, the fact that it's UM and it's happening too, I find shocking.
No, I was going to say, the fact that it happened is shocking. The fact that it hasn't happened is not shocking. I needed to rephrase.
So
is the U back?
Yes, I still think the U is back. I have no reason to believe that they are not back. Since Quinn Ewers was pulled for his abdominal side on Saturday, Cam Ward is currently the highest likely odds of winning the Heisman. And that's like a freaky thing to say out loud. See him getting nervous. Does that sound like I need the hope alarm? My own voice is a hope alarm of just like uncertainty and scariness.
You're right. I
love
probably should have
UM's
hit.
offense.
It's fine. We're fine.
It's fine. We're totally fine. I love Miami's offense. I love Miami's defense. They like just are a total wall, held Ball State to like 115 yards and just were like, no, and go back to Indiana where Ball State is. It was fun. I liked watching the Canes continue to be good. Now they'll play South Florida and still be good. Go Canes.
Broad Street versus Broadway. But is it really a debate? Because voiceover man is Team Broad Street, and that makes the vote 2-1 on this show. Let's go, Birds.
I'm going to take you all a little inside baseball. And by that I mean inside our relationship.
And inside us baseball.
Right, exactly. I felt like it was a fun little thing to use. So obviously, Broad Street versus Broadway, the Mets Phillies just faced off. We're going to break all of that down. But I think before we get into it, I think it's important to explain that I can't talk shit to Nicole. And this is not because I like Nicole, best friend, love you. It's not about that. I talk shit to people all the time. But it's not fun to talk shit to Nicole because Nicole would just nod at me and be like, yeah, my team sucks. And guess what would happen if the Mets won and Nicole talked shit to me? I'd be like, yeah, I'm so mad at my own team. So if you are expecting me to come on this podcast right now and to sit here and gloat about the Phillies winning the series, that's really not what's going to happen. I will say I am incredibly relieved, excited, happy that the Phillies won that series. I don't understand, but I just boiling inside of me want to complain about how the Phillies could not, for some reason, hit the mediocre pitching of the New York Mets.
Especially the third game today. It was great for us going in, and this is split. So it's like, cool, now third game really, not that it wouldn't matter, but like really, really matters. And so we're like, all right, where is this gonna go? And it's just the longest game of nothing. And then it's like, and then there we go at the end. And that's how baseball works. And I'm still like struggling to grasp that as like, this is the concept of sports. And this is how this is going to go. And it's like, and then it's over. And then, but yeah, I've been kind of Debbie Downer on the Mets all season just because they've hurt me before and injuries have plagued us and things. Friday gave me some slight hope of just, it's not impossible for the Mets to win this series. And then I kind of took it back.
Well, I was feeling really down in the dumps when the Mets came out and smacked the Phillies in that Friday game. Aaron Nola played the most Aaron Nola game of all time, where he had 4 to 5 incredible innings of like, I think he had like 7 strikeouts. It was incredible. I was like, oh, so we're finally getting a good Nola game. It's been a while since I've been able to watch a good Nola game. And then in that one inning, giving up 2 3-run home runs, I'm like, this is why I am never like calm when Nola's on the mound. And then I was feeling really down when I had to watch. I was like, you don't know this much. No one cares this much about the Phillies, about what I'm about to say, but the Phillies have had a 5th starter issue. And so when I saw that the Mets were getting the Colby Allard game, I was like, oh, okay, so we're losing this series. So it honestly felt like the Phillies swapped games they were supposed to win, and that hurts my brain.
The only bit of quote unquote shit talking, and it's barely that. Friday, the one piece that I had, even though as like getting to the end of the game, I did feel like the Mets could still blow this. I was like, no, but this is a Nola game. And this, from everything that I have learned this year from Briana and watching the Phillies, is that something's going to happen later. And it did. So
Nola will give up a couple home runs, and you can every game, and you can survive the games where Nola gives up a couple solo shots. It was the fact that he gave up 2 3-run home runs,
it was
and
a
it was
lot. It was a lot at
just
once. It's like bing, bing, bing. It was cool. As a Met fan, we're like, woo, this is happening. So I felt mildly cocky for 0.001 seconds on Friday. Did not gloat to Briana about it. And that's also because then the Mets proceeded to lose Saturday and Sunday, which is fine. Would have been great to win one of them, to be up on one game against the Braves, but it's fine.
It's annoying for me because the Phillies still need to win these games because they need to get the bye. But I would rather the Mets make the playoffs than the Braves.
Right, exactly. So if that just happened, it would have been great today. Just, if everyone was just like, screw the Braves, let the Mets win. But that's not what happened. And so we cannot celebrate that. So still tied.
So I'm going to make a case. Because I knew you were going to come on this podcast and be really down about the Mets, because I think that's just your normal state of being. There's a couple of hard stats that I think you should know about this Mets team that I don't think you do know, that might just make you feel a little better about their chances and hopes of making the playoffs. So I had to pick a date. So I decided to pick, that London series, June 8th and 9th?
I do recall.
Since June 10th, the New York Mets have the best record in baseball. They have a record of 53-31. I will say that again for you. Since June 10th, so since coming back from London.
So fake.
The amount of dates I put in to try to figure out how far that goes back, I had to pick a date, and it just felt like that date. Yeah. So and if you're curious,
when was Grimace? That has to be around Grimace time.
It was a little after Grimace. If you're curious, the next closest team, so the Mets are 53-31 since then. The Padres went 50-30, so they're 3 games better than the next closest team since June 10th. Then it's the Diamondbacks, the Astros, the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Cubs, the Phillies, the Twins to wrap up the top 10 since June 10th.
That does not math. That math is not mathing in my head.
Baseball season's real long. But yeah, so the Mets are, again, I will say it, since June 10th, they've had the best record by any team in baseball.
But now we're hurt a little. Now McNeil broke his wrist, and Lindor.
Everyone's hurt. I will give you another data point about the Mets. Coming into this series, they went a whole month without losing a series. 8 straight series, they either won or drew the series.
And now it's ruined.
Yeah, I mean, because it's gonna happen. But, I think, yes, this Mets team is not actually built to be some world-beating team. And that's why they're competing for a wild card spot. But your perception of the Mets does not line up with the reality of how this Mets team is performing, which is why I went into this series real nervous, and you were like, it's going to be fine, Phillies are going to win. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. And so I needed to pull some stats for you about how good this team's been.
But they won. And the Mets didn't. So, and then literally this is just proving our entire point at the beginning of this segment of that we're bad at shit talking to each other, because you're literally sitting here trying to convince me the Mets are good, and I'm just like, no, they're not.
Right, look, this Phillies team, I don't find it interesting to share on this podcast more things about the Phillies. They're good. They're competing for the bye and the number 1 seed. They have currently, as of right now, the best record in all of baseball for the year. I can say all of that stuff. They make me nervous, but this Phillies team is all about, can they win the World Series this year? So that's all it's about. The Mets are actually interesting. The fact that the Mets came into the season saying, we're not trying to win anything, that they actually bought at the deadline and made great moves that are working out for them. They've had the best record in baseball since June 10th. I think that you should at least be enjoying the ride more than you are right now. Is all I'm trying to convey here.
Enjoy the ride. Noted.
2
Great.
years
I'm
ago.
super good about that in sports.
Really? So 2 years ago, 22, the Phillies were not good. And then they made a run and they got that 7th wildcard seed. And then they went to the World Series and they annoyingly lost the World Series and it still hurts. But I guess my thing is like, I've been in that position where it's like, my team should not be performing this way. My team's not that good. I think the difference is that Phillies team had more stars than the Mets currently have. But, and it's Mets, but like, it's also the Phillies. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that your concept of the Phillies is really recent, but like the Phillies are the losingest team in baseball history. So you know that the Mets and Phillies have never met in a postseason matchup?
Seems like a really good time for that to happen just because of irony.
I would be very stressed about having to play
Same.
this.
Yeah. Me too. Great content. You're like, welcome to the playoffs. We have anxiety.
Whether or not our teams are playing each other, I really think that would be that's going to be the content. Hey, Brianna, the Phillies are in the playoffs. Yeah, I'm stressed. Hey, Brianna, the Eagles are playing this week. Do you want to talk about it? No.
No. Well, are you not watching? Of course I'm watching it. I just can't converse about it at all like a normal person.
No. Well, speaking of not being normal, I thought we could play a quick game of Superstition or Super Stupid in relation to our baseball playoff worries. Because we both shared a superstition that we're living with right now, and I think we should share with the class, essentially. And I'll go first. Nicole, superstition or super stupid, me not buying tickets early for the upcoming playoff series, even though I'm going to be in Philadelphia, and the Phillies should be in said series.
Superstition. Valid.
Thank you.
Valid superstition. You make that purchase, you're going to change the course of history.
It really feels like it. I'm like, I'm just going to wait and see if they're actually in the game before I buy the tickets for too much money.
I'm trying to think of the best way to describe what my superstition of how I had to watch the Mets today was, because it's so super stupid having to try to say it out loud. Like, I know that, and it's going to sound crazy. Superstition or super stupid, I had to watch the entire Phillies Mets series on mute because I watched Friday's game on mute, and if I had to watch the other 2 games on unmuted, then the Mets would have lost. Even though they did lose the 2 games, I proceeded to watch them on mute.
Superstition for Saturday, super stupid for Sunday.
It was so stupid. Well, there was also so much football happening on Sunday at the exact same time. But my brain totally was like, but it's okay because Friday I had it was put on, it was on the TV and I couldn't hear it and it was a great outcome. So that's how I have to watch the rest of the series with no sound on.
So the reason I say Saturday is superstition is because in my crazy superstitious brain, it makes complete sense that you're like, that's what happened on Friday. That's how we have to watch on Saturday. Yeah, of course. But it was, it's that it already didn't work on Saturday and then you continued it on Sunday. That's what made it super stupid instead of superstition.
I know, but
no.
It's easy to point to. Saying it out loud is explaining a superstition is the stupidest feeling in the world. Like, saying this out loud is the most I feel crazy, but 100% I would not have changed how I watched any of the games. And that's how I watch all sports, so.
Nicole predicts a ball game. Nicole predicts the series. Give her almost no info and stats. We don't care if she doesn't know bat. Let us root for her predictions. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out in our prediction game.
I tried really hard this week, Nicole, to not make it Phillies week, but it's going to be Phillies week because we always pick a first half of the week series and a second half of the week series. The first half of the week series, it is the exciting one is Phillies Brewers. And so I'll get back to that in a second. The second half of the week, the Phillies Mets play each other again. Again, our two favorite teams. So while I
It's
think
gotta
the
be.
Arizona Brewers is going to be in another exciting series, we're going with Phillies week because they're the most exciting storylines we have here. So let's start with Phillies Brewers. Phillies are going to the Brewers for a 3-game series. The Phillies currently have the top record in baseball. The Brewers are third in the The Brewers are third in the National League, which means the Brewers are really fighting for a bye. The Phillies are fighting to keep their bye. Of course, the other team involved is the Dodgers. So this is a huge head-to-head matchup. At the time of recording this, the Brewers are, I believe, 4 games behind the Phillies, but they're only 2 games behind the Dodgers, which means that losing the series to the Phillies is a big deal for the Brewers, and every loss right now is a big deal for the Phillies. So in this battle for a bye, I thought before, normally that's all the information I'd give you. But we haven't got a chance to talk a ton about the Brewers, and they're an interesting team. So I thought I'd give you a little bit more information because I talk your ear off about the Phillies all the time. So the Brewers did win their series at the end of this week against the very hot, very good Arizona Diamondbacks. They won it 2-1. They actually lost today on Sunday. They are 5-5 in their last 10. Interestingly, so Yelich was put on the IR July 24th, which really kind of put a lid on any kind of long playoff run aspirations for this team. So I wanted to know how well they've been doing since he was put on the IR. Well, they've had a winning percentage of 596. They've gone 28-19 since he was put on the IR, which basically tells me they've definitely been overperforming their talent. Some interesting things to watch during this is the Brewers have incredible defense. Like, they score too, but like they're one of those teams that when you just watch them make plays, like you don't fully understand how like a shortstop got and made that catch and they made it look easy and they threw to first and you're like there's so much time, and then you look at it in slow motion, it's like how did he go 30 feet in 2 seconds? Like they're one of those teams. And then also Jackson Churio, 20 years old, outfielder for the Brewers, has had an incredible breakout, like full rookie season this year. So just part of an interesting thing to watch for, besides my emotional stability in this series, is Jackson Churio. If you haven't watched a ton, not you, Royal you there, but I know you also haven't watched a ton of Brewers this year. So he's really worth, like he looks like one of those future stars of the game. So Nicole, how are you feeling about the series?
I am going with Phillies 2-1 in this series. I think they'll still be able to. I know that's like anytime I'm picking the Phillies, I feel like I'm also picking your emotional state, which I don't necessarily thrive with.
I really thought it was going to be like 1-2, like Brewers winning 2, Phillies winning 1. I think the Phillies will win the Wheeler game on Tuesday. I'm not sure if they'll win the Ranger game or the Nola game.
Yeah, who are the other pitchers? Yeah. Duh.
Yeah. But that's again me just being too stressed about my own team.
But also the Dodgers can just like kind of pick it up again. I feel like they had like a little bit of like a
I think it is so big right now that the Phillies have the tiebreaker with the Dodgers. So while I believe as of right now it's a 2-game lead, that's really a 3-game lead because if they're tied, then Phillies get that. But I personally, it'd be really cool to have the 1 seed and have the best record in baseball because
it's what you've been saying all summer. Therefore, just
it really cements that this Phillies team is a historic team no matter what happens in the postseason. But I really just need them to get the bye. So it's important to me that
get the bye for me, please. Thank you.
Right. Right. So it's important to me that the Brewers don't win games. That is more important to me than if the Dodgers make some late surge over the next 2 weeks. All right, back half of the week. 4-game series at Citi Field in New York. Phillies, Mets. So we're playing again.
Because it's 4 games and because I can, I'm going to say we split the series. Woo! Not
What a hot
exciting,
take!
What a hot take, but potentially likely. And also, it's just like you win and then I win, and we just like screw the Braves. Woohoo!
I think the Mets need to win 3-1 to push out the Braves.
Yeah, that would be my ideal. So I'm hoping for 3-1. I ideally expect either 1 or 2. I would love for it to be 3-1, but I don't anticipate that on the Mets, given my Debbie Downerisms of earlier.
The pitchers are likely to be, for the Phillies, Colby Allard, then Sanchez.
Oh, well, that's good for you.
No. Yeah, Colby Allard, Sanchez, Ranger, Wheeler.
Damn.
Is probably...
That's not
I would say
great.
Those first 3 games are very
that's
winnable.
Great for you. That's not fab.
Sanchez is a completely different pitcher on the road. I don't understand it. I don't try to understand it, but like what you saw today, you're unlikely to see next week.
Well, we'll see.
He's great. I like him, but different scenario. But well, I think it will be a stressful week for me and an interesting. It's our final, what is likely to be our final Broad Street versus Broadway matchup, unless they meet in the postseason.
Which I don't know if I should knock on wood or cross my fingers for. I don't know what I'm hoping for, because that means Mets
making
are there.
The playoffs. Yeah. It means the Mets are there and they win that first series. Likely is what it means.
Right. That's like a lot of. This is like a lot of superstition things that I suddenly feel like I need to be knocking on wood and crossing all my fingers and turning off all of my TVs and muting them.
It's time for the final buzzer.
Tua Tagovailoa was injured in the Thursday Bills-Dolphins game with another concussion. We didn't want to talk about it in detail this week because I think there's a lot of questions and things that are up in the air, as he rightfully should take time, talk to his doctors, and talk to his family to figure out what he personally wants to do. When we get news about it, we'll talk about it then. But right now, we're just hoping that his brain is okay.
Northern Illinois' football team has a boneyard wall where they celebrate their big wins with a wall covered with bones for each opponent that they beat and their score.
Some rapid-fire injury news. Christian McCaffrey was put on the IR and is out at least 4 weeks. Puka Nacua was put out on the IR, and it looks like he's going to miss up to 7 weeks. And Hollywood Brown looks like he's likely out for the rest of the season, but maybe he can come back in January and play in a Super Bowl, but it's really out for the season at this point.
Green Bay Packers center Josh Myers threw up on the ball today mid-snap, and then QB Willis refused to throw it, so he ran on 3rd down.
Saquon Barkley was the Week 1 Nickelodeon Player of the Week, which means he got to get slimed, and there was a special guest appearance by his daughter, who was overjoyed to slime him.
The Saints and Cowboys score today of 44-19 was the 1,086th unique final score in NFL history. Scorigami.
Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has officially announced his engagement with a beautiful spread in Essence magazine.
Luke Hughes will be missing the start of the NHL season with a shoulder injury.
Philadelphia Phillies top prospect Mishkov made his debut in a Phillies jersey on ice in the Rookie Series, where the Phillies prospects played the Rangers prospects this past Friday, and he did score a goal.
Roberto Luongo responded to a goalie needed ad on Facebook and helped a beer league team defeat the defending champions. I just can't imagine being in that locker room when he showed up.
If we could do a 2-hour show, I would have wanted to do 10 minutes on that story. It's incredible.
Thank you for listening to another sports show. Thank you to our co-creators, Nicole Katz and Briana Klein. Thank you to the four-legged executive producers and me, voiceover man. Make us one of your stars of the game by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on auto downloads. Make our day by leaving us a review on your podcast platform of choice and a comment on YouTube. Attend the postgame on social media for exclusive daily content. We'll be back to review the playbook every week. See you next Tuesday.
Today was another sports show, and it was really bad at shit talking.